I get to rave about this musical again? Well, it was all just a matter of time. After approximately 487 days, 23 hours and 30 minutes, I got to see The Curious Case of Benjamin Button again, now that it is transferred to London's West End. Last year, I made a video all about this musical and just how spectacular it was, as it did an off-West End trial at Southwark Playhouse Elephant. This is a musical that has been worked on through an 8-year period, going from the Fringe to the West End. So what have they adjusted about Benjamin Button, and why is it one of the best musicals that you can go and see in the West End right now? Let's find out. But if you haven't seen my face before, hi, I'm Ellie. I talk about theatre. I am the most chaotic theatre person on the internet. I do reviews, I do news, I do discussions, versus brackets and tier lists. And if any of that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me, it helps the channel. But let's dive back into this musical. Oh my god, this is gonna be a long one. I'm warning you, because I have so much to say, and all of it is just me sitting here in awe. Now, when I say Benjamin Button, a lot of people are very familiar with what that means. They may know the classic tale, they may know it more from the film, but essentially when you hear the words Benjamin Button, you know what you're in for. A man aging backwards. Born as an old man and ending his life as a baby. When you hear that, you immediately think that this is a very strange idea for a musical. Obviously, there is the film, and if that is your only reference point for Benjamin Button going into this musical, get it out of your mind immediately. The only thing that The Curious Case of Benjamin Button musical takes from the idea of Benjamin Button is just that, the idea. It takes the idea of the myth, a man aging backwards, and moves it to Cornwall, places it into the home of one of the writers. And immediately it just becomes this absolute love letter to home. This beautiful, slow burn love story that is always tragically doomed to fail. There is something so magical about this musical, and when I first saw it, I fell in love completely with it. They have made it better. These small changes they have made to this musical, there's a couple of small adjustments, quick things just to quicken up the pace of the show that have just improved it tenfold. A feat I didn't even realize was possible, but that just comes off the bat of this amazing creative team. The work that Jeffrey Compton and Darren Clark have both put into this musical alongside this absolutely phenomenal cast has to be commended. And you know what? I have a YouTube channel where I can spend time just commending it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm so thankful that this version of Benjamin Button doesn't shy away from leaning completely into the folklorish elements of Benjamin Button. This is a story that is so fanciful, and I think certain other adaptations have been afraid to really properly lean into that. But not only does Benjamin Button manage to do that, but also manages to thread in a lot of really, really important elements, a lot of really hard-hitting drama that just comes naturally from this tale, from this story. It's so perfectly done. Everything that comes out of the story of The Curious Case of Benjamin Button feels natural for something as unnatural as this story is. There's so much purpose to everything within this musical. It is a sight to see. There is not a single second of wasted time as the musical hones in on these two themes. The theme of time, the theme of these chain events, the themes of things having to go in a certain specific order for these events to happen. If one thing within this chain doesn't happen, everything changes. And the idea of home. What home is to you. Not just location, but the people around you that make home worth it. These two ideas are blended so thoroughly into the story of Benjamin Button to absolutely spectacular effects. This time being a force of nature, almost represented by this ensemble. This thread of narration throughout the entire musical, chosen at the most specific times to thread the gap, to give those little key highlights of extra information, to show how time changes things, and to give us these key characters in the background that grow alongside Benjamin Button. You spend little bits of time with each of these characters, but they're so fun, they're so engaging, they're so lovely, that you almost fall in love with them as much as the leads in this show. Whether it's a couple that are refusing to get a divorce and are constantly at each other's necks, a woman who is trying to grow herself a husband, a man waiting in a pub for the love of his life to return. These characters are so full of life, so well portrayed by this ensemble that you honestly love it every single second they come up. And they're used so effectively to link certain events, things that happen only because of certain actions from these ensemble characters, leading to the big changes that happen in Benjamin's life. And the ideas of home that it brings out through that story, through that push and pull of Benjamin trying to find his place in the world, this person who has constantly been told throughout his life that he will never be able to have a home, he will never be able to find a place where he belongs, he will never be able to have a normal life because of what nature has given him, because of this thing that he almost sees as a curse, which leads to so many human moments within this really, really intelligent book. These lessons that Benjamin has to learn, these trials that Benjamin has to go through. It's so human. It's taking this fantasy, this mythological, this folklorish concept and grounding it, not shying away from anything that makes it supernatural or weird, but still managing to give it really human depth. These realistic plot points of what would actually happen if a man was aging backwards. Everything makes so much sense in a story that a lot of people would look at and go, this doesn't make sense as a musical. Because it's brutal at times. There's so many tragic moments throughout this musical. It doesn't shy away from the harsh realities of a situation like Benjamin's. And you have people he meets again. You have times where he pushes people away. And these moments show you exactly who Benjamin is as a person. These are absolutely heartbreaking moments that I won't go deeper into because of spoilers. And because these moments deserve to be experienced on stage exactly how they are for the first time. But even knowing that these were going to happen, even knowing the plot beats of this show, it still absolutely broke my heart. And yes, I did cry, which was annoying because I had beautiful eyeliner that day and it was ruined. I can't give this story enough praise. It's so well crafted, so human. And all they've done is slight little touches. From my memory of it, there's only a couple of things that they've adjusted, but these were the perfect things to adjust. Reworking the opening slightly, removing just a couple of scenes that quicken the pace and allow us to dwell a little bit more on the right moments within this show. I'll use an example for this. There's a moment in the previous version of this show where Benjamin bonds with this character named Little Jack. Initially, in the previous version, this happened because an event. A harsh moment where they get stuck in a place together, and that's where they form that connection. However, now they form that connection a little bit more naturally, just throughout their time together. This not only quickens the pace, but changes what Benjamin reaches for when he reunites with Little Jack a little bit later into the musical. And the new version of this feels more personal to them. It feels more unique to them and twists it so perfectly in this moment. I love this musical so much. I love everything they've done to this plot, just to quicken it, to highlight it, to make it so purposeful. This is a story that could feel really, really gimmicky, but it is given not only the weight of the human side of it, the reality of it, but it doesn't shy away from making it larger than life by giving it narration, by stylizing it so perfectly that it feels true to the original folklore that it comes from. It's a masterful adaptation and a beautiful new story for this musical. And that's just a story. I've only spoken about the book of this show because then there's also the music. So expertly crafted. Not only does it have this absolutely gorgeous folk-inspired score, this very ensemble-heavy music that feels very genuine to the location that they have set this show in, often used to underscore moments and played phenomenally by this ensemble cast to double up as actor and musicians. But also the lyrics, a lot of these being performed by the ensemble. Less so musical theatre in the traditional sense of a character breaking out of a certain moment to highlight the drive or the emotion of the scene. But instead, the ensemble take this emotion, the ensemble take the themes, and highlight them in such beautiful ways. I love the new version of the opening of this show. It sets up the myth so perfectly, while also introducing us to these background elements, to these characters who are going to come up again and again and again. It does it so expertly in just a couple of minutes, really allowing this show, which does have quite a bit to set up, to get going as quickly as possible. And then straight after that, we launch into one of the first key moments of this musical, the Kraken's Lullaby. This song for Benjamin's mother, this song that is just so raw, it's so deep, it's so brutal in its lyrics, and the melody matches that perfectly. This number feels so grandiose in its scale, and is the first moment in this musical where we see the reality and the brutality of this musical and how they're going to approach this mythological story. It's a really important moment to set up the tone of what they're going for. That's contrasted with a song like A Little Life, that's so full of hope, it's so upbeat, and it's just so full of life and joy and everything. As you get a sense of Benjamin's perspective, especially as he's trying to break out and find a place of his own. I love a song like Whene'er She Looked at Me as well. It's so perfectly crafted, this number that is set in this pub sung by the ensemble, matching that location, but beyond that, all the lyrics linking so perfectly to Benjamin and Eloin. As this pub, which is showing this community, showing these people within it, but also highlighting this moment and this very key moment for the musical of the first meeting of Eloin and Benjamin. I love the recurring theme of Matter of Time. This is what really sets up definitively the chain events in this musical, walking through events of the day, showing us these characters just going about the place and things that go subtly wrong that lead into something else going wrong and leading to something else going wrong and lead into something that drastically affects Benjamin's life. There's a song like The Moon and the Sea, this beautiful duet between Eloin and Benjamin, allowing them this key moment of connection and chemistry building. And as this relationship continues, as they weave in and out of each other's lives, we get so many different songs that highlight these key moments when they do reunite. A song like Shipping Out Tomorrow is so full of joy. And a song like The Tide Is Coming In, which I think I can safely say is one of my favourite numbers in this entire show. This really soft and beautiful number, highlighting this moment in Benjamin's life. I love some of these lyrics here, giving us these key bits of imagery of this moment in Benjamin's life, of these points where he has found his happiness, but then within those lyrics as well, there's moments where it's just these reminders, these voices in the back of Benjamin's head. Because of who he is, because of these negative forces in his life, there's always that little bit of doubt, even within his happiest moments, that everything's going to collapse, everything is going to fall apart. He can never find happiness. He will never be able to do that because of who he is. You see how much these words and this lie and everything affects him, even within these moments of joy and comfort, not allowing himself to fully feel at home in the only place he ever knows is home. There's so much depth within this score, within the lyrics. Everything is so well crafted. I adore it so much, and please give me a cast album now. I'm not okay with only having like the tiny 1 minute cut of A Little Life. I want all of it, please. We have a couple of demos around and I'm like, I will be listening to these non-stop. Then there's also this set design, also done by the director and one of the writers, Jeffro Compton. I love how this set wonderfully builds this atmosphere and this image of Cornwall. From the fishing nets up top, which double with these little lights in them, glowing at key moments. I love the hanging balls at the back. All of this fishing imagery that can also double up for a lot of the imagery about the moon and the sea and the waves and the tides, and how these two are so linked intrinsically, and how these two are so intrinsically linked together, just like characters like Benjamin and Elowen. The time and the home. It's really clever how they hide instruments within this set. A piano, a drum set, all just embedded into these sets for easy access for these performers to go up and into them. We have these platforms and these staircases giving extra levels to this set and places for the ensemble to sit and watch this tale unfold. There's so many little hidden details within this set, little compartments in the floor that open up to reveal sand or water or places for hidden suitcases. It's a very cleverly thought out set and looks absolutely gorgeous. And speaking of absolutely gorgeous, let's talk about this cast. Oh my God. First off, I want to commend every single ensemble member on that stage. It is shows like Benjamin Button that make me long for award shows to award ensemble for their dedication and their efforts on stage. This show is nothing without this massive ensemble of people highlighting these moments, switching characters like that. And absolutely every single one of them has their key moment to bring their own perspective and their voice to this show. From Matthew Burns' performance of When Ere She Looked at Me, from Jonathan Charles and his really comedic performance, absolutely full of character. Unga Cox doubling up as Benjamin's daughter. The wonderful Katie Ellis on the fiddle. Anna Forderman, their highlight, playing Benjamin's son. And a lot of the anger and resentment that comes from that role. Philippa Hogg, who doubles so much within this show, even having creative credits, being one of the few ensemble members alongside Matthew Burns to be with every single iteration of this show so far. Giving one of the most heartbreaking performances as Benjamin's mum, and performing the Kraken's lullaby to perfection. Damien James and his comedic touches to Mrs. Gladstone's sister, Elliot Mackenzie, switching between instruments like it's nobody's business, and Markison as the midwife and the mother of Elowen Keane. And honestly, my favourite instruments that she manages to play through the show, the spoons. I love that. Jack Quarkston as Little Jack, a character that I found myself really warming to so much with his naivety. And of course, Benjamin's father, played by Benedict Salter. Salter giving so much weight to Benjamin's father, a character who's really struggling to understand this situation. A character who is brutal, but even within that, adds so much depth to that performance that you can completely understand why he is saying this, why he is doing this. As you can tell, every single ensemble member in this cast is phenomenal, brings so much to this show. Switching between instruments, switching between characters. It is masterful work. And then we have our two leads. Claire Foster, who plays Elowen, and something I really love about her portrayal of this character is a lot of that free spirit. There's so much life and there's so much hope in her performance. She's so bubbly, she's so lovely. You instantly warm to her, especially as she's weaving between these people in the bar. And of course, John Dalglish, who had absolutely massive shoes to fill, taking on this role, and fills them he does. Showing the age of Benjamin perfectly through his physicality. Even the subtle changes as we go through the years are given such clear differences in how he stands, in how he walks, in how he talks, how he moves. Every single change in Benjamin's age is so well thought through and so well portrayed by John Dalglish. He gives us so much raw emotion in how Benjamin feels about this, in how this affects him. His chemistry, along with Claire Foster, their chemistry together is phenomenal to watch, and you understand this relationship and you root for this relationship so completely. Phenomenal performances from both of our leads and the ensemble combined. Benjamin Button is one of those musicals that I could go in and watch it again straight after seeing it, and I would be perfectly okay. I would be fine with that. Not only that, I would be honoured to do that. There are very few musicals that I feel I can do that with, and those are my favourite kind. A show like Come From Away, a show like Amelie, a show like Hadestown, a show like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. A show that is so effortlessly rewatchable. Every time you see it, you pick up on so many extra details. You witness so many extra things that this ensemble is doing. More depth within the lyrics, more purpose behind the book and the story. Everything comes together to create this absolutely beautiful, life-affirming piece of theatre that you need to go and see. It is not a want, it is a need. I am so glad that this musical has made it to the West End, and I hope it stays there for as long as time allows. But what do you think? Have you seen this musical? Did you see it at Southwark Playhouse? Have you seen it now that it's in the West End? What are your thoughts? Tell me all of them in the comments down below. If you did enjoy this video, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It really helps me, it helps out the channel. Here's some links to some other videos on screen right now, and the link to my Instagram if you would like to drop me a follow over there. I also have our social links and a merch store in the description down below. But that's it for me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!